CEO for pharmaceutical giant Moderna, Stéphane Bancel, testified before the Senate Health, Education, and Labor and Pensions Committee yesterday, where he responded to questions about the drug maker's COVID vaccine and why it plans on quadrupling the price of his COVID-19 vaccine. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders and other lawmakers grilled Bancel about this astronomical price hike. Here's a little of that exchange.
My question to you is, given the fact that you have made billions of dollars, that your company has made huge profits, on behalf of the taxpayers of this country, will you reconsider your decision to quadruple the price of the vaccine?
So, Chairman Sanders, what we have to do is to deal with the complexity I described, and I'm happy to go into more detail through this hearing. This is not the same product. In the pandemic market, we had one vial with 10 doses in there. In the endemic market, what the market requires is single-dose vial, or even better, pre-filled syringe. On top of all this, we're expecting a 90%, 90, reduction in demand. As you can see, we're losing economies of scale.
The new sticker price to get the shot will likely come as a surprise to many Americans, but equally shocking is the fact that they could be stuck paying the tab for Moderna's unpaid licensing fees from its coronavirus vaccine. Advocacy groups are pushing back against the proposed 400% price hike. They say the vaccine should be free, maintaining the public already helped fund its development. Here representing one such advocacy group is Peter Maybarduk, the director of Public Citizen. Thanks for joining us.
It's great to be here with you.
Yeah, great to have you on. What was your reaction to this hearing where the CEO faced aggressive questioning along these lines from Senator Sanders?
Well, it was excellent to see Bancel get some comeuppance. The NIH Moderna vaccine is a triumph of public science, federal investment, a partnership through several years in which we, the people, funded and developed pioneering discoveries, scientific discoveries, technological discoveries, patented inventions, in fact, on which Moderna relied to bring this vaccine to market. So this is really the people's vaccine. But Moderna has broken faith with the National Institutes of Health and others in spiking prices and being a truly recalcitrant partner in the effort to stamp out global COVID. Here in Washington, they've got a terrible reputation for stubbornness. And we're tremendously disappointed by the price spike, but we're heartened by Senator Sanders' questioning.
So, Peter, on one level, I am heartened, as I often am when it comes to Senator Sanders, that he is leading the charge on these issues when so much of Congress is silent. But to your point, if Moderna already has this reputation of kind of bullying Congress in this way, the pharmaceutical industry as a whole has this reputation of relying on government investment and kind of socializing research and development, and then capitalizing on the enormous profits. If you see here that they are now trying to quadruple the price of a vaccine that the government for 3 years has told us is life-sustaining, life-saving, crucial to the continuing of the economy and to putting all this money behind people getting their shots, how are they able to get away with it? Because this seems like a perfect storm of finally getting some accountability for one of these institutions. Why is it that it seems like very few Congress members, including Bernie Sanders, are actually highlighting this particular issue?
Well, we do have a structural problem in our government where the pharmaceutical industry deploys about 2 lobbyists for every member of Congress statistically, and it produces these outcomes. It is true, for example, much as we should be focused on the price spike now, it's also true that this is a problem we could have fixed as a country had we negotiated harder with Moderna in the first place and insisted on reasonable pricing and access conditions in the initial vaccine contracts. We, the people, fund about $40 billion in biomedical research annually through the National Institutes of Health. Those medicines are then commercialized by drug companies, typically on a monopoly basis with monopoly protections we give them. And we ask far too little in return. So we should, both in Congress and in the administration, be pushing hard to insist on reasonable pricing as a condition of the reliance on public inventions and federal financing that we're giving these companies. Fortunately, there's some opportunities to make those changes in the months ahead, but we're behind the ball on Moderna. Nevertheless, Moderna's got to hear the message. They're an outrageous bad actor. It's not just a 400% price spike. It's a 4,000% price over the cost of production. We think this vaccine can be made for $3 a dose. So it's time for Moderna to start being a good faith actor and playing ball with our effort to stamp out the coronavirus.
I know it's come up in these hearings, too, whether there's an incentive from a regulatory standpoint to improve them or to mandate them in certain cases because of the kickback, the kind of royalties that some of the people involved can collect, and whether that creates a conflict of interest. Do you have any comment on that?
Well, there is an issue. There's a revolving door problem, and a problem where, for example, the recent, now departed National Institutes of Health Director Francis Collins, for example, has been invested in medical technologies. There's an issue around royalties coming back to individuals, but we want the federal government to get royalties on its inventions. That part's not. The federal government should be raising money from the contributions it's making to these discoveries. But what we really want is the federal government to insist that when we invest in a technology, that it be available, accessible to everyone, everywhere. No one should have to worry about not being able to pay out of pocket for a vaccine. The global COVID relief effort should be able to rely on conditions that we have negotiated, ensuring that everyone will be able to get a vaccine. And that's where we've been falling down.
Peter, you mentioned that there are opportunities in the coming months to right this ship. What are those opportunities?
Well, for one, there needs to be we're awaiting appointment of a new director at the National Institutes of Health. That is a potentially powerful office that could change the political economy of our relationship with the pharmaceutical industry, where we don't just give away the store, but rather we insist that there are going to be fair terms and conditions. And there's also more that we can do on pricing. There's an effort underway to strengthen the negotiation provisions in the Inflation Reduction Act. We should support that. But there was a really disappointing development just 2 days ago where the Biden administration had the opportunity to authorize generic competition with an extremely expensive patented cancer drug and declined. Our federal government has the opportunity to introduce affordable generic competition with expensive patented drugs essentially at any time for particular purposes and programs, and doesn't do so, does not use the authority it has to ensure affordable medicine. So we are very disappointed in the recent Biden administration decision on a drug called Xtandi and its material to cases like Moderna and others. If we want to really make medicine affordable and really challenge the power of the pharmaceutical industry, we have to be serious about patents. We have to be serious about embracing the power of the federal government to put limits on the monopolies that we create.
I mean, Peter, are you surprised by this latest Biden administration move over the cancer drug, given, you mentioned the revolving door earlier. Biden's senior advisor, Steve Ricchetti, was a former pharmaceutical industry lobbyist for much of his career. Now he's the right-hand man of the president, advising him presumably on some of these very issues. How optimistic are you about this NIH placement actually being someone who is going to advocate for kind of the pricing solutions that you are advocating for here today? And why do you think there isn't more public pressure around appointments like Steve Ricchetti's and others who have this kind of conflict of interest?
Sure. Well, we were disappointed, if not surprised, in the cancer drug decision. We know that there are competing voices in the administration about it. Not everyone sees these issues the same way. So we were hoping that our side would win out, and did not, and that's disappointing. But it's true, of course, there is a terribly cozy relationship with the industry for far too many officials in government and sort of Washington culture in general. There's been a significant change in the politics of this issue over the past 10 years. There was a time when the pharmaceutical industry and the outrage over drug pricing has grown tremendously in recent years. And I think Washington is still catching up to the American people who are on a bipartisan basis totally fed up with the profiteering and give it no credence whatsoever. But we're still a little behind the ball here in making sure that perspective runs as clearly through government as it does through public understanding.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Great to be with you. Thank you.